There's a frightening statistic out there that was published recently in a general social survey. And this survey found that in the last 12 months, 28% of men and 18% of women aged between 18 to 30 had not had sex in the last 12 months. Now, that's a pretty staggering statistic, almost 1 in 3 men. What do you think is perhaps behind that?
All right, I've seen those kind of surveys, and I remember seeing a survey like that maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and another survey a little bit different but similar came out around the same time. And the two surveys, I'm going to misquote the statistics, but yeah, what you said. But one of them was that I think it was just reporting on North America, so primarily U.S., Canada, and I live in Mexico, which is technically North America as well. But for the first time, I think they're mainly surveying Americans and Canadians. For the first time in recorded history, since they've tracked these kind of statistics, over half of the population, 35 years old and younger, reported not being in relationship. Right? Single, or however they identified. They did not say, I'm in relationship. I'm a boyfriend, girlfriend, I'm married, whatever. Over 50% of men and women, 35 years and older. And then I saw a similar statistic to what you're talking about, that some significant statistic of young, I saw them primarily around the men, young men report not having had sex in the last year. And, if you think about it, Mother Nature really wants young men to be, and young women to be having sex. It doesn't want people my age. Mother Nature doesn't want me having sex. My genes, my chromosomes are broken. They got problems. And so young men, their sex drive is at a peak from about 16 to about 25. It actually starts declining about 25, even though we might think it. But the libido, the testosterone begins declining. So the very people that should be having the most sex are reporting not having sex. So here's my thought. This is my opinion on what's causing that 50% of 35 and younger not in relationship, significant percentages of men and women, but it's higher for men that 25 and under have not had sex in the last year. And this may sound a little bit ironic and paradoxical, but kind of like the Ben Franklin effect is paradoxical. I blame that on hookup culture. Swipe right. Think about it. Bill Maher did just about 2 weeks ago. A friend sent this to me. Bill Maher did his New Rules episode on swipe right, and he said it's time to get rid of it. He said, it serves men because we're lazy, but women, he said, it doesn't serve you at all, right? But here's the deal. Men can go to pickup boot camps. They've got apps on their phone that they can swipe right. The women are swiping right. People can get in and out of relationship easily. People are waiting longer. You think that this hookup culture with all the technology, whether it's, online dating sites, apps on our phones, men out there using pickup skills, red pill skills, Andrew Tate skills, all this stuff, you'd think people would be ended up in a relationship and would be getting laid. You'd think at least that would be happening. But I think it is actually having the very opposite effect, because why would anybody settle down, man or woman, settle down to just one person if, hey, and what I see in men, for example, I'll talk about men and women separately, but in men, the issue we guys have is that, 100% of us guys want the same 10% of the women. Right. I hear guys, especially coming up kind of red pill kind of community. I want a quality woman. I go, what does that really mean? Like, she's intelligent, she's generous, she can communicate. No, hot. I want young, I want hot, I want sexy. So 100% of the guys are all targeting 10% of the women. All right. So that means most of the men are not going to get the woman they're trying to get, which usually for most men means they don't get any woman. I've had men tell me, unless a woman's a 10, I'm not going to date her. And I go, That's a great recipe for staying home every night in your mom's basement, jacking off to porn on the internet. It's kind of like saying, unless I can drive a Bentley, I'm not going to drive at
Yeah.
all. And I tell them, hey, you can fucking start with a Honda Civic, build up to a Honda Accord. Maybe you get to an Acura, maybe a BMW, but you don't start out with a Bentley. You learn to drive, and then you develop skills. And so it takes skills to get a quality woman. Just because you want her because she looks like the women you've been looking at porn since you were 12, doesn't mean you got the skill set that she's going to even pay any attention to you. Right. So if you got 100% of the men all targeting the same 10% of the women, and the men all had their ego involved. I want this young hot thing so I can feel good about myself, and all my buddies will go, oh man, look at him, he's got that young hot thing, which often leads to them not having any woman, because the young hot things are in high demand and only a few of the guys actually get access to them. Right. That's what I think is happening with the guys. Over here with the women, again, I'm making generalizations, and these are opinions, but over here with the women is that there's a part of human evolution that the female needs attention, because they would die. And, in tribal times, if they didn't have attention, if they couldn't procreate, if they didn't get fed. And so there's part of the feminine that wants attention and needs attention. So let's say you're a woman, and you get on these swipe right apps, and maybe you get on Bumble or whatever the one is that women kind of have more control over. And all of a sudden you got 20, 25, 50, 100 men a day all contacting you. And you're going, oh man, I'm on crack. This is amazing. I got constant attention from, and so what incentive do these women have to go get to know one guy well and find out who he is and get into a deeper relationship, connected relationship? Now, when I was dating 15 plus years ago, the swipe right apps didn't exist, but I was on Match.com. And what I noticed, almost every woman I met on Match.com, she had so many men contacting her every day that I found that none of them ever wanted to close the lid on that perpetual toy box, right? They wanted to leave the lid open. If I just start dating one guy and take down my profile, I won't get constant daily attention from lots of men that want to buy me stuff and take me out to nice dinners and on nice trips. So they don't close the lid. So they don't ever get all in with just one guy and give it a go and see if this is a guy that they want to be with. So again, I'm making pretty broad generalizations. But if those two things is what's been, fostered by hookup culture, it makes sense to me why very few people report being in a relationship. And ironically, so few people are actually getting laid. You'd think everybody that wanted to be in a relationship could be, and everybody that wanted to get laid could. But apparently that's not happening. So that's my theory, for what it's worth, that I blame it on hookup culture, where, you actually don't have to get out there and meet people and get to know them and kind of work at being a decent person and, kind of work at getting to know somebody. You can just move on to the next one, move on to the next one, move on to the next one. That's easy. Again, that's that hanging out in the nursery mentality that, since I mainly work with men, that so many men have. I just want to keep swiping right till I get some hottie and, don't have to worry about getting rejected, looking foolish, or having to actually get out of the house and work at having a social interaction with somebody.